Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast all about movies. Each episode is about a singular movie, and we'll get to today's movie in a second, because first, I need to invite you, the listener, to give us your fan recommendations. Every so often, there is a fan vote, usually attached to today's episode, and in there will be 4 movies you can vote on. Obviously, that's coming up in a couple weeks or a couple episodes, I suppose. But if you want to get your voice, your movie choice in, your voice heard, go ahead and send us an email to ff.filmfreaks with a Z at the end at gmail.com, or comment on the latest episode of Film Freaks with a Z at the end on the YouTube channel, or talk in the Discord in the movie stuff Discord, or join the podcast and recommend a movie. Let's go ahead and start with our who we are. It's a rough day, folks. I am Sergeant Ferret's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Who am I here with?
Sergeant Waffles.
Strawberry Tay.
Blueberry Fields, aka Callus. there can't be 2 sergeants.
I don't. Talk to the guy next to me. Yeah, if you want to change your name, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm not prepared for this.
All right, I got one for you.
Okay, what is it?
Greedy Shears.
Yeah.
All right, podcast. Oh, fuck this.
All right. Greedy Shears.
That was a brilliant. That was amazing. Everyone clap. All right. Never.
Okay, here's the clap.
Well, we'll consult Callus. Was that a good name? I felt like that was a really good
I
name.
like that name.
Yeah, thank
Yeah, it
you.
was a good name.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're the main character, Greedy.
All right. Greedy Shears.
All right, so today's movie is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from 1978, directed by Michael Schultz. Small synopsis here is a small-town band makes it big but loses track of their roots as they get caught up in the big-time machinations of the music biz. Now they must thwart a plot to destroy their hometown built around the music of the Beatles. This musical uses some big-name groups like Peter Frampton and Aerosmith, and it stars Peter Frampton himself, all the Bee Gees, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Frankie Howard, and all these other people as well. So this is a tough one to kind of start a conversation on, because it's a very crazy movie at times. But I guess you gotta start with the main thing, which is all these different covers of the Beatles songs done by multiple bands. I would say most of them hit, but some of them aren't like amazing, like the She's So Heavy song starts off in a really bad way with the guy who was like the record label guy trying to sing, and it was just terrible. And then the woman comes in and she's like, I won't you. I'm like, oh my god, please. But it gets better towards the end, obviously, as the main characters start to take over the songs. But I do feel like for the most part the covers are really pretty good. Obviously they've got that like 70s disco vibe to them, because it is the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton covering most of the songs with other artists doing other things. Obviously, one of the best songs from this movie in general that actually got pretty big was Come Together from that was covered by Aerosmith. But what'd you guys think of the music? Do you think it was good?
Well, for me, I mean, even just at the Beatles, like, they have good songs and they have bad songs. They don't really have in between songs. They're either good or they're bad. And the good ones were great. Like the covers by Earth, Wind, Fire and Aerosmith were great. But yeah, then you just have these random songs like So Heavy or whatever, and it's just like, this is a bad song and it's a bad cover and it's just ew. And then there was just some songs they just felt like they just kind of like, well, we have to have this song in there, but it doesn't make sense why anyone is singing it or like have anything to do with the plot, but it's there.
Yeah, sometimes they struggle to link the songs with the plot together.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up, is how some songs seemed very forced into, like don't forget about this song. You're like, oh, okay.
So did anyone actually see the Beatles musical? What was it called? Was it called Strawberry Fields Forever or something like that? That came out in like 2007, 8, 9, somewhere in that
There's
area.
one called Across the Universe from
That was
2007.
it. Across the Universe.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
No, it had the same problem where it's just like they tried to pigeonhole songs in that like this doesn't make sense. What is this?
I think I did see that one, but I barely remember it though.
Yeah, it was very
So-
forgettable.
Yeah, not very memorable.
But yeah, it had the same problem where it's just like we got to use all these songs from this thing and then just cram them in there, even if it doesn't make sense. Like, why the hell Steve Martin singing about Maxwell's Silver Hammer? Like, it barely looses of threads. Like, okay, he has a hammer, I guess, but
That
he's
was
a,
very bunkers.
yeah, he's a surgeon though. They don't technically usually use hammers, so
A surgeon that doesn't use surgery.
yeah, uses magic.
A magic hammer.
I don't know. I found that part of the movie to be quite fun. And I found
That's-
Steve Martin's cover of the song was actually kind of whimsical and fun also.
Well, no, definitely. The movie is very campy and just kind of fun-ish, but at the same time, it's like, God, this is so dumb.
Well, I guess that leads into. I mean, I know we probably will talk about the music a little bit more, but that leads into my one of my points is that like this like completely and fully encapsulates like the Beatles' discography at the time of Sgt. Pepper's and kind of around Sgt. Pepper's, where they were just in the studio and they were doing tons of drugs and they were making songs like "I Am the Walrus" and all these weird songs, also mixed in with like these really good songs. And there's also like a bunch of experimental songs in there as well. So I think the movie actually does encapsulate that time period for the Beatles pretty well with all the crazy visuals and stuff that goes on. One of the coolest visuals is when Billy Shears is on the record, the spinning record with was that Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds or whatever her name is. It's a pretty cool little visual there with the black background and the record spinning as he makes out with the with Lucy.
That was a very trippy scene. I do love the way they did the music to where like it just got more and more distorted. So that was also a cool effect on top of like the weird groovy visuals.
That's in the original song.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't remember
that whole dinner scene where they're like signing the contract and then pop, they got the record label shirt on. I found that to be really well done. The visuals and everything going on, and then like they get to the guy who's quote unquote Ringo in the movie, and he's like falls over drunk, and he doesn't even sign it. Actually,
Yeah,
that's kind of illegal.
just
Whoops.
a little bit. Oh, and then they had to drug the other guy to get Billy to get him to sign.
Right.
Which is like, why wouldn't it just didn't make sense. They're like, oh, we're gonna be big, let's go. They know they're gonna have to sign a contract, and he's like, no, I don't want to sign a contract.
But the point is that it was a very long contract, and it was probably something you should read over with a lawyer, and they were just trying to get him to sign.
Yeah, probably.
I thought something more was like gonna come out of that whole thing, but
Yeah.
they never really went back to the contract.
Nope.
Yeah, there's a few loose plot threads that never really get like a payoff or something like that. Like the contract. Definitely, like you feel like when when Billy Shears and the rest of them leave the recording studio, you feel like something with the contract's going to pop up, but it never does.
Yeah.
And then like the instruments, like there was really no reason for the villains of the movie to take the instruments because they didn't really seem to do anything. So like the whole plot with like they took the instruments, it's like, well, what did they really do? What do the instruments really do? Like I know
if the instruments aren't together, it doesn't bring joy and happiness.
They're magical instruments. They keep the town together.
they didn't look too magical. I mean,
No,
the
they
design of that
They
cornet
stopped
is
the
magical.
wars.
Yeah, that was a good.
Well, the
cornet.
band stopped the wars, not the instruments.
Well, the band's playing the instruments.
The instruments are a tool for Sergeant Pepper
Yeah,
and
'cause
his
it's like-
band.
Because once it was reformed as Sergeant Pepper, they weren't using those instruments, so it wasn't the instruments.
But Billy Shears was a descendant of the great Sergeant Pepper, so
Yeah.
Yes.
he has some sort of magic in him.
Yeah. And then found it was a weird choice to have really no speaking dialogue of any sort. Like there was occasionally, but for the most part, it was just them just mouthing stuff while songs were playing, and you didn't actually like Donald Pleasance. You never hear his actual voice because he's British.
Yeah, there's
And
the
they're like-
narrator who kind of goes over stuff,
Yeah.
and then everything else is pretty much just a song, except for a few lines here or there.
Yeah, which
I mean, that's a
is
musical,
interesting.
you know. It like I don't know. I didn't mind it so much.
I
But
didn't
towards
necessarily
but
mind it.
at the end when like they all get turned like you know how the guy like turns them into like nuns and stuff. I would have liked to hear what they were saying there because I have no clue why or what the fuck happened. Like why that was happening.
so weird.
That was the weirdest
So weird.
ending. Definitely drug fueled.
When I was a kid, that was like my favorite song. It was at the end there, and I would
good
dance
song.
along to it. But you know, watching it when I'm 30 years old, it just doesn't make too much sense. You know, nothing makes sense.
Get back.
Well, a lot of it doesn't make sense. I'll say.
Yeah, I like they go like, oh, Billy is so upset he's gonna commit suicide, and then this magical trumpet man is just like, no. Also, your girl's back. Also, you're all nuns, and you're the Pope.
I'd like to think that he jumped from the roof and then fell to the floor and got into a
Yeah, that was
coma,
my-
and like that whole ending was just like a fever
Oh,
dream.
I don't
came
think it
from
was
a
a coma. I think he died, and
Yeah.
that was just
Afterwards.
That's a real Titanic situation. You're stuck in Heartland forever.
Ooh,
and the message of this movie. Just
don't
like,
die.
well, no, just like they're like Heartland's great, and then it's like, oh no, this mustard guy's come in, and like I swear, like then they immediately like were like, it saw its darkest days, and it looked like there was just a bunch of gay people there.
Well, there was like, no, I mean there was like
was,
the
like,
casino was
trash
built. It
and
was all
then-
trashy.
Yeah, there was trash. Yeah,
It was like run down.
but just the first shot was just a bunch of people with like rainbow haircuts and like making out and stuff, and I was like, oh no, the gays have arrived. How bad for Heartland. It was a metaphor.
I just remember the ending of like that scene where the butcher, whatever his name was, had like a small gay moment. Other than that, it was a mix of genders in there. It wasn't.
Yeah, no. It was just that's what just kind of looked like what it was trying to say, and that made me.
It might
like-
have. I
like-
mean, this movie
it
came
was
out in
just-
the '70s, so
yeah, it's just that's the problem. It's the gays. How bad for you guys?
but it was really big industry that tore down
Yeah.
Heartland.
For sure. Well, it was actually an evil band.
Well, yeah, what was it? What was that? What are they called? The
The future villain
future
band.
villain band, FVB.
The future film band is Aerosmith.
Yeah. Well,
That was quite a surprise. I really thought that like the true bad guy was gonna be like the record company
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be the record guy too.
Yeah, that probably would have been a cooler reveal, you know. But
Like he's the like if he would be the one to hire Colonel Mustard to like steal the instruments and all that stuff, and get I don't know.
you could still have the
It-
evil
it-
band
they-
in there, but they're like, you know, the manager or not the manager, the record label guy turns out to be Satan. Like, you know, go Tenacious D on this.
Yeah, like the
Why
record
not?
label, like they are the future evil band or whatever. Like they're also signed under the same record label, and it's like, oh, record labels are the bad guys. That'd be a better message.
Yeah, there's a few different ways they could have done this, but we got what we got, and
Yeah.
But I guess the message is that we should become priests and nuns.
yeah, who knows? Who knows what that ending message was? It was also like a very sudden ending as well. All of a sudden, they just go into like the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band reprise, you know, for the ending,
Yeah,
and like all the people are there in the way that like the album cover is, but they're not dressed like the people in the cover, so it's just kind of like an homage rather than like a, you know, like a whatever.
A recreation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, then I got a bunch of different bands and stuff from the '70s to sing that part. I think like a bunch of
well,
different
it
artists
was the whole crew and like everyone who was in the movie on the
for
platform.
sure. But I thought there was also some other artists in there. But hold on. At least that's what people were saying. I saw at the comments. So
But that ending, I knocked Police Story for an abrupt ending. This one, probably even worse, for just like all of a sudden Strawberry's back, Peter Frampton's alive, their band's back together, and then it just ends, and there's like no explanation, and there's no real conclusion. And I almost wonder if they ran out of budget or something, because this movie obviously uses a lot of special effects and obviously had to get a lot of rights and probably give money to all these bands who pitched in and did covers. And yeah, I'm guessing that they might have just ran out of funds at the end of shooting. They were like, well, we have this set still, but we can't really do anything else, so let's just end it. you know
well,
I
they
mean-
wasted most of their budget on drugs, and they went, oh, damn it. Well, we're done.
Well, I
Too
mean,
much
but that
money to get.
time, sorry, go ahead, Greedy.
I was just gonna make a joke that they spent too much to get Aerosmith and all that.
Honestly, they might have.
Probably.
Well, Aerosmith wasn't quite as big then.
Oh no, they were big.
I know they were
Wasn't it
big, but like
78?
I don't think they were like I doubt they would have been.
They were.
I don't know.
They were. I mean,
Were
they were
they-
pretty big all through the '70s.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead,
Andrew.
Kels.
I was just gonna say, like, I didn't think it was like the ending came suddenly, because by that time it was already 2 hours, and like
Yeah.
there was like a lot of parts in the movie that kind of just dragged on, and I was like, when is this movie gonna end?
That is also very true.
Movie's only like an hour.
It is almost 2 hours.
It's 2
Almost
hours.
2 hours.
See, it went fast for you, Greedy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, an hour 53.
I mean, the movie did drag a couple times, but like the ending is still sudden. Like it's not
Yeah.
like it doesn't like it's not like a creeping ending where like there's a fall of action and then a resolution. It's just like here's the climax where Billy Shears jumps off of the roof, and then the resolution is everyone's fine.
Everyone's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I mean, they killed, what's his face from Aerosmith?
Yeah,
Oh,
they
my
killed
complaint.
Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler,
He's
thank you.
dead.
Yeah, and you see him fall, and then Strawberry just goes down with the sign, and they instead of like cutting away like they did for him, they just like watch it.
Yeah,
It's
they
like, oh.
show you what happens.
Yeah, like that was. I mean, probably a dummy, but it's like, yep, that neck just broke.
That was pretty, dare I say, visceral. Like I was shocked. My jaw like was
Yeah.
down all the way.
I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, that movie took a twist. What a twist.
You be on your toes, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of this movie that I remember from when I was a kid. There's a lot of scenes that I didn't remember, like Strawberry falling and just getting eviscerated, and then like the whole like at the beginning during the "She's So Heavy" song, like everything kind of like getting very sexual, like those are parts I don't remember.
Well, was it recorded like off TV or something? Did your parents like just
No.
edit out those scenes?
No, we had the DVD, official DVD.
Oh.
But there's a lot of stuff that I remember from this movie, and a lot of it was just like it seemed like a fever dream in my mind, something I'd remember randomly and be like, oh yeah, that did happen in this movie, didn't it? And now I can say, the fever dream is still a fever dream. Like you still think back to this movie and you go, oh shit, Earth, Wind and Fire was in this movie, and there were latex robots massaging
Yeah,
Colonel
that was
Mustard,
weird.
The robots.
Very
Probably
weird.
two of the worst covers in this movie are the ones where the robots are singing, and I don't know why they used the robots singing twice in this movie, and there was one right after the other with the "She's Leaving Home" song and the one where they introduced Colonel Mustard. I know that's not his
Yeah.
name, but it's such a like a obviously it's like of the time a synthesizer voice. Like, oh, that's pretty cool. It might have even been Peter Frampton playing the guitar with his voice thing changer. I don't know, but it sounded bad, and it kind of ruined the song.
The fact that Mustard was like going after Strawberry was just weird and creepy, and it's like, why?
Because he's evil.
I guess
He's horny and evil.
Yeah, he's a dirty man.
Dirty man. Yeah. See.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like I guess the caveat is that like, when he captures Strawberry, like nothing really creepy happens. He just kind of like sings about how he's old. When I'm 65, will you still feed me?
Or
The other thing is like this, like Beatles lyrics sometimes are kind of weird, and this movie kind of like exaggerates them because you see it in a different context. When the Beatles are singing it, it's like, oh, I can't think of a lyric right now, but when when Mr. Mustard's singing it, or Steve Martin or whoever, like it just doesn't work the same way as it would in the actual song. And taken out of context, some of the lines could be downright disturbing.
yeah, it was definitely, especially like Mustard singing it. Like the song "When I'm 64," like it's a decent song. Like, and you go, oh yeah, this is it's supposed to be two young people talking about when I'm older, will you take care of me? And now you've just turned into this creepy old man who's like, next year when I'm 64, will you take care of me? I'm 20. Ugh, yeah.
But then there's other songs that really work in the movie. Strawberry Fields, one of them. Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah.
I really like Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Anytime that the Bee Gees were covering a song, like always, really, really good. One of my favorite Beatles songs is "With a Little Help from My Friends," which is like the first song of the movie. Well, second song of the movie technically, because, and that was done pretty well. The thing is, like, Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. Peter Frampton is rock, and Bee Gees are disco. They do have a bit of a different style, so when they're singing together, sometimes it can be a little bit weird. So that's why when Peter Frampton's the solo singer with the Bee Gees behind him, it doesn't sound completely right when they're trading off the parts, but it's still an enjoyable song to listen to.
Well, then there was that song that the narrator sang, and that was just weird.
Oh, yeah, I'm fixing a hole with a... Yeah, it's a good song, but yeah, when the little kids start singing, that's when I kind of tune it out,
Yeah.
And then they like poorly dance away.
I did like the narrator though. Like I like his voice. Like his narrator voice was great.
Yeah, you did a good job of narrating everything.
For sure.
But it just got weird when, like the doll scenes. It's like, oh man.
Oh, the robots?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's the robots.
Yeah, the robots are completely separate from the mayor, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, those robots, I mean, the design of them are kind of, fear-inducing. And just how they talk and sing is kind of weird. And the visuals for like the Alice Cooper section too, like that all, like that's another fever dream and a half there.
That was crazy too.
And how he's singing the brainwashing, where the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts were in the seats getting brainwashed. Yeah. That's Alice Cooper. He kind of looks like Frank Zappa, but it's Alice Cooper. Yeah, and he's singing the one of the most drugged out songs in the Beatles history. With the because the sky is blue, it makes me cry. It's like, and it's like all psychedelic.
It's funny you mentioned Frank Zappa, because I thought the exact same thing when he showed up. I was like, wait, is that Frank Zappa?
Yeah, he looked slightly familiar, but I didn't know who it was.
Yeah, that was Alice.
We had Alice Cooper, Steve Martin, and who else?
The entirety of Earth, Wind, and Fire?
No, I'm just out of the bad guys, like who got the instruments sent to them.
Oh, it was just the three, because
Mr.
Mustard kept
one.
Yeah,
that's
kept
right.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was Mr. Mustard was he a band person, a singer of some kind, or just an actor?
Frankie Howard is known for his. He's a comedian,
Okay.
so that's probably why they chose him, because Steve Martin's in here, he's in here.
Yeah.
Apparently, he did comic songs.
Ah,
Okay. So
singing
he's
about
singing
singing about
comics.
Superman.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Steve Martin has a band too, so he does.
He played the
Sing.
banjo.
He does play the banjo.
Yeah.
It's an instrument.
They should have let him play
Banjo.
the banjo in this game or in this movie. Because I think a banjo cover of Maxwell's Silver Hammer would have been cool.
Maybe.
As we started the movie, I said to my wife, I'm like, oh, we should take some drugs if we're going to watch this.
Honestly,
We
you don't need to take drugs to watch this one, because the
I know.
movie itself is a trip in its own. I feel like if you did like smoke some marijuana or something, you would probably. I mean, maybe you just vibe out, but I feel like the movie might be too psychedelic, you know?
Yeah, you'd be
He's like,
going crazy.
wait, what?
Mm.
Yeah. I was joking. We don't do the drugs.
There were many parts where everything's just crazy, and it's just like, what's going on?
Tay comes out of the movie and he's like, I love money. I hate love.
I mean, yes, I do love the money.
I hate.
But if I
joy.
love the money, that means I love love.
It's quite the conundrum.
Ah. Joy I hate, though.
There's a lot of really cool costume design in the movie, especially with the main band. They have their Sgt. Pepper uniforms on a lot of the time, but there's also a lot of like the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds section, where Lucy has like all the diamonds around her eyes. Like that's
The
a really
kaleidoscope eyes.
yeah, exactly. Really, really great costume design there. I felt like a lot of the characters just had like really good outfits on.
Yeah. Although that scene was weird though, where she just gets out of the bus, sees the billboards, and immediately is like, "They're macking." Which
Well,
they
I think
were,
at that point,
but-
because there was tabloids, they focused on that pretty hard for the
okay, I
the
didn't
one
see
song,
those tabloids.
and it said like, "Oh, is Billy Shears going steady with Lucy?" Or whatever it said.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
And she probably saw those, which is probably why she, raced to L.A.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I like that visual of them on the billboard and starting to move, and the band starts to move. I do really like that.
Yeah. So okay, that makes it make a little more sense. I missed those tabloids.
It was like they actually froze the frame, and then just Peter Frampton was singing, and like the rest of the frames were all frozen, and there was like just a few lines of like newspaper articles or whatever. One of them was way too small to read, but they gave you enough time because the frame paused for like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Well, maybe like a
Well,
minute, but
And I do find it fun. She's worried about him, and he's like, "Well, yeah, he totally was making out with people. Like the second he got into this."
and that's
into the
another one of those
city.
unresolved things. Is like she actually sees him blow a kiss to Lucy, and she doesn't seem to care. All she cares about is getting those instruments back.
Yeah.
He got lucky. If those instruments were
Well,
not
he
taken,
certainly did.
he would have. He would have received all of her Strawberry's wrath.
Mm-hmm.
Strawberries wrath.
Strawberries, wrath forever. Well, any other thoughts or comments or things people want to bring up?
Like this is the hard one to talk about because there's just so
Yeah.
much randomness in it. Because it's like, oh, you could talk about the plot, but it's like there's really, I mean, the plot's there, but it's not like we said before, like there's really no payoffs. There's really no, real story structure, especially with some of the songs, how they just kind of do like a full song, a 3.5 minute song. They just kind of whip it out every so often. When
Yeah.
they don't know how to get from one scene to the other, which is almost how I feel like the end, like they were like, how do we make a happy ending? Like how do we make this a happy ending? Because the ending, like in itself, is very somber and sad, and like some of the best like musical moments come out of like the ending, with "Come Together," and then there's the "A Day in the
Yeah.
Life," and that was one of my favorite songs too from the Beatles as well. And then of course "Get Back" comes around. It's like how that whole sequence of events though, like yeah, they just kind of lose the plot there. They don't know how to get one thing from the next. Like the whole Earth, Wind, and Fire song happens, and it's pretty much just a full song. And then at the end, the very end of it, they're like, and Strawberry gets captured. And that's how it goes.
Yeah, it was weird, and just I found it weird that the statue of the original Lonely Pepper, Sergeant Pepper.
The wax
weather
figures.
vane.
No, not the facts, like the little weather.
The weather
vane.
vane.
Yeah.
How it turned into not him. It was somebody else, and it was just like, okay, what?
Yeah, I forget who that is.
That is. I just had the name.
There's so many
earlier.
names in the credits because like
Billy
they have to like.
Preston.
Oh, okay.
Which she did a great job of singing it. I just thought it was weird that it's just like, wait, why is it? One, why is this weather vane suddenly coming to life? Two, who is this?
Yeah,
I guess
there's
it
so
was,
many names here because they have to credit like every single person in the band. Like Earth, Wind, and Fire has like
Yeah.
15 people in their bands.
Yeah. That's like 3 pages worth.
I don't know. I guess Billy Preston was better known back then.
Yeah, probably.
I didn't really recognize him either.
Yeah, it's interesting that like obviously they use most of the songs are from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the album, but they also use a lot of stuff from afterwards. And you would think that they would use like the Magical Mystery Tour album more because of how psychedelic this movie is, and those songs were way more out there at times.
But they couldn't figure out a way to. I can't remember the song now. The one with they talk about the walrus. I am the walrus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although Mustard singing "I Am the Walrus," I think would have made more sense than him singing "When I'm 64."
Maybe. But yeah, and there's nothing from like their early days. Nothing in here from the early days. It's all Sgt. Pepper's and after. And like this is a time when the Beatles weren't touring, and they didn't even tour for their final album, which is the Let It Be album. And I think there's 2 songs, She's So Heavy and Get Back that show up in this. But yeah, they never toured with the albums since Rubber Soul, I think, was their last one where they toured with. And then after that, they just went into the studio and took tons of drugs, broke up, came back together for one last album, and that was it. And this movie came out a little while after, maybe about 10-ish years after John Lennon died. And I think George also had passed before this movie came out. So I guess Paul McCartney and the estate of John Lennon had to approve of a lot of what was in here, and probably the estate of George Harrison had to also approve it. But I don't think Ringo ever got a call for this one.
I think Ringo should have played the Donald Pleasance role, the manager.
That would have been fun, but Ringo was probably like, "Fuck that,"
Well, Ringo. Because like when I was looking at the soundtrack credit and stuff, most of everything that they used was written by John Lennon and
Paul McCartney.
I don't think they didn't use any Ringo songs or George Harris songs. So
yeah, and for a little help with my friends, even though Ringo sings in that one, it is written by John Lennon. So
yeah.
So unfortunately, Ringo he probably never even got a phone call about this movie, honestly, because he didn't really have a lot of sway in the band. Even though he's my personal favorite Beatle.
I love Ringo.
Yeah, he's very funny. But yeah, maybe if they, I don't know, thought about it a little bit harder, maybe Paul McCartney could have been a person in here and Ringo could have been a person, but I don't know, maybe it's because this is more of like a disco kind of feeling, a musical. Maybe they just felt like it wouldn't fit if they had them in there, or maybe they didn't even contact Paul McCartney. Maybe they felt like he would have felt like they were spitting on his music with the disco theme. I don't know.
I don't know. It feels like they would have had to have gotten their permission to.
I'm pretty sure they did have his permission, and probably the estate of John Lennon.
They were like, "Oh, it's not going to be disco. It's rock. It's completely rock."
See,
I'm not trying to dog on disco. I think the music in here is fine, but I think it was relatively soon after this movie came out that disco died. So,
This movie killed
This
disco.
movie killed disco, yeah.
The 80s come around, and that's when electric pop and rap started coming up, and metal, and that was the end of disco. And if we go to the airplane timeline, it's because the plane ran into the radio tower of the 24-hour disco station. So
That is true. Yeah. Where disco never dies. Plump, dead.
Yeah, I guess in general, I guess now that we're this deep into the podcast, I just want to know, in general, what did you guys think of the movie?
Well, so we're to the end then, huh? Final thoughts.
Well, let's not do final thoughts yet. I just want to know, like, a baseline, like, how are we feeling? What's the temperature in the room here?
Oh no, it was
Baseline cold.
It was all right.
Yeah, my feelings on this movie were pretty low.
For me personally, I would say less than all right. It's like I probably would not want to watch this movie again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I enjoyed. Obviously, I like a lot of the songs I enjoyed, and Steve Martin's section I loved, and Aerosmith was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like all those things are not enough to.
It's like I can listen to the albums and listen to those songs on Spotify. I don't need to watch a bad movie to get those songs.
So,
Yeah.
question for Yemi, like,
Hi.
was it was it like kind of what you remembered? Like, was it as good as you remember, or worse than you remembered?
Yeah, it's about the same. I had about the same enjoyment out of it. Obviously, there were some scenes like that, I remember now, or I know now that I didn't remember back then. So, but when I was a kid, I mean, I mostly just watched it for the music, and this movie actually got me into the Beatles. So I guess it did its job in a way. Because before I watched this movie, I really didn't. I didn't really know the Beatles until this movie came around, and I started looking up the music because I liked the covers in here when I was a kid. Would it do the same thing for me now? Probably not. But maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because your music taste is much different now, huh?
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's if this was the first time that I was watching this movie, I mean, maybe I'd probably be on the same area as you guys. But since I've seen it so much and it's such a big part of my childhood, I guess I have a little bit of a bias towards it, just because it's a lot of good memories, and it's what got me really into the Beatles and stuff like that. So I guess there's some bias on my end, but not a lot. I understand, like, this is like in terms of a movie, it's kind of a mid to bad movie, right? But in terms of a musical and the music in it, it's pretty good to mid.
Yeah, I guess I could, as a musical. I mean, I don't know. I've seen so many better musicals. Like the soundtrack was, for the most part, 80% was 80% good.
There's a lot of great musicals out there. Maybe it's because I just watched Les Miserables not too long ago, the movie, and I thought that was terrible.
Yeah, that is terrible.
Maybe it makes this movie look a little bit better. I don't know. 4 years for what you did, the rest because you tried to run. I stole a loaf of bread.
Les Mis is just that dumb musical.
No, I think that in general I just don't like the musical, which is why the movie was also extra bad. But
good musicals will actually have like dialogue and stuff, and Les Mis is like, no, everything has to be sing-songy, even though it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Russell Crowe really can't sing, but
that too. And the actual movie. I was just talking about the actual musical.
Well, yeah, the actual musical I think I don't like either. So
yeah, no, I don't either.
But with this, like, if I saw this at, like, at the Playhouse in Cleveland, like, I'd be very entertained. It'd be interesting to see this morphed into an actual musical, because I don't think Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band ever ran as an actual musical. I think it was just the movie, and I guess it probably didn't do as well as they were hoping, so that's why it never got big. But like I said, there's one good thing that came out of this, like, really good thing, and that was "Come Together" by Aerosmith.
Yeah,
that was huge. Probably the best cover in the movie, next to the Earth, Wind, and Fire song.
Yeah, those two were the best. The Earth, Wind, Fire one and the Aerosmith one. Like the Earth, Wind, Fire one, at first I didn't even realize it was a Beatles song. I thought they were playing one of their own songs.
Oh yeah, Earth, Wind, and Fire
kind
comes
of blend in. You're like, oh, it switched.
Yeah,
It
same.
just they did like it. They covered it in such a way that it sounded like an Earth, Wind, Fire song.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, anyone else have anything they want to bring up about the movie?
What do you guys just think of overall, like the acting? I mean, I know we kind of touched on it, but like, I
It
don't know.
was
What do you?
bad.
Yeah.
I thought
I
it was
think-
fine.
What acting?
Yeah,
I
they
think-
really wasn't acting.
There was just like singing and dancing.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, I mean, like that.
Let's put it in the perspective of Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees aren't actors.
Yeah,
I feel like they did a fine job not being actors, and like they have to like pantomime a lot of stuff and like mimic things. Like the whole fight scene in Maxwell's Silver Hammer was
that one was
atrocious.
so
But it's
bad.
like
Bad.
that just comes down to like, okay, obviously the directing was not amazing here because this is not in sync and this does not look good. You know, and I don't put as much weight on the performances of the musicians in this, even though it's like you actually play the instruments while you strumming guitar like that, you know. That's the only place that I go, oh, that was bad. Like there's the opening scene where, you know, Peter Frampton's actually strumming the guitar and looks like he's actually playing. But then you have the Bee Gee guys behind him, and they look like they're just wildly flapping away on their instruments. It's like, you guys can play your instruments. Like, why are you doing this?
I forgot how.
Like, the one guy's just, like, slapping his guitar like a bass. And it's a guitar. I'm like, what are you doing?
It's like, well, I play that
Bass.
bass in real life.
And you could tell the drummer was actually, like, he could actually play what he was, like, he actually was
Yeah.
trying to mimic it perfectly. But he also had to, like, not hit the cymbals because they probably were going to, like, they didn't want them to do that or something. Because every time he went for a cymbal hit, it was just the lightest touch. It barely moved.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there was definitely something with the directing or production in this movie that went wonky, which is why you get some of that stuff like that, where it's like, why is the Bee Gees not playing their instruments right? Why are the fight scenes so poorly choreographed? Like, you know,
Yeah.
why is there so much choking in this movie?
I'm choking.
Like the fight scene with Steve Martin, where like they're clearly not even touching anybody. They're just, I'm like, what is this? And then we go to the next scene, and they just deck Alice Cooper like right in the
Yeah.
face, and I was like, okay, so you guys can actually make contact. What was that last scene? So weird. So weird.
All right.
That's about it for me.
Anyone
Me
else?
too.
Yeah. Take a Callus.
I think I'm good.
Alrighty, I'll start us off with our final thoughts and rating. In terms of podcast lengths, this is going to be the shortest one we've done in a while, which I guess is not a bad thing. You know, it's about time we have something less than an hour.
Yeah.
So Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Obviously, there's a lot of nostalgia for me, but I don't let nostalgia run my life, so I'm not going to be giving this a 5 out of 5, obviously. It's a really bizarre adventure that just kind of like, it's more style over substance, or style over story, I should say. You know, like there's a lot of songs that just, they're kind of thrown in there and they play the whole song and it's just them performing the song. It's like, why can't we just move on to the next scene, or why can't we link this together with something else happening? It happens a little bit too often in the movie, which can bog it down a little bit. I really like the sets and like the costume design, and obviously the music is mostly really good. You know, obviously it's available on Spotify to listen to this movie soundtrack, so I would recommend doing that and maybe skipping over a couple songs that didn't really work too well. It's a bit of a strange story, has a very sudden finale. You know, it's just kind of like, you know, it's just like snap of the fingers and they're done. You know, which I'm not a huge fan of. But in the end, it is exactly what I would expect a Beatles movie to look like, especially during like these albums' years that they used for the movie, minus Let It Be, even though Let It Be does have a couple of crazy psychedelic songs on there. Well, maybe not crazy, but psychedelic songs on there. But for the time period of the Beatles that they're kind of using, it makes sense to me, which kind of is a little bit of a saving grace. In the end, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5.
All right. Yeah, I literally like the costume set and the design and the overall theme of the movie. The music was good, like besides a couple songs and all that. But it does slow down at times, even though no, I said earlier didn't feel the runtime, but you can definitely feel like it slowed down a little bit. But it picks back up with the bizarreness and like the craziness. And as Yemi said, I wish they connected some scenes better and link things better. The ending did seem a little abrupt, and they just kind of seemed like they didn't know how to end it. So it was just like, whatever. But the acting was pretty bad. Some of the songs are bad. I don't know, and those robot dolls are just a little weird. I didn't really care for them, and of course they had to sing and all that. So that was a little not too good, I guess you could say. But overall, I'll give it a 3 out of 5 as well.
What? Hold on,
Okay.
what?
Yeah, that seems very high for like what you were just saying. Just
That's the same score that I
Like,
gave it.
Yeah.
And I like this movie.
What he said.
If that's what you want, we'll just go with it. We'll just roll with it.
All right. As for me, there was a few songs I liked overall, though most of the songs I don't think really hit. Felt like they were just kind of trying to cram them in there to be like, look, we got all the Beatles songs, from this album, and it's like they don't. It didn't all work. Most of them didn't work. Some of them were fine. Like the cover by Aerosmith and Earth, Wind, Fire were good. There was a few Bee Gees and Frampton ones that were good. Acting, obviously, we talked about there wasn't really any acting. It was bad. The overall, everything is just bad. I felt dumber for watching it. I'm going to give it 1.5 or a 2. It was dumb, but campy and a little bit entertaining at times, so I'll give it a 2.
All right.
2 out of 5.
Well, yeah, I did not enjoy this movie very much. There was certain parts that I did enjoy, like obviously some of the music was very well done. I enjoyed some of the covers, like seeing Steve Martin was great, and Aerosmith, and just the ending was just very bizarre. Like there was just so much dragging it down, so many parts where I was like, okay, how long is left in this movie? And I think it's because of those parts, because I was just like waiting for it to end, that I guess that it didn't really allow me to enjoy the good parts as much of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this is not a movie that I would want to watch again. I guess I'm glad that I get to experience it, because this is like a very weird and bizarre movie, and probably should be experienced at least once. But I'm definitely not going to want to go through it again, and I will give it a 1.5 out of 5.
Oof. See, that's what I was expecting everyone to be like.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you did have it a 3.5 originally, so you knocked it down a little bit.
Why does that matter?
I'm just saying.
I changed mine. I'll go with the 1.5.
All right, I'll
Really?
change mine to 2.5.
Oh my goodness!
You know,
everyone's
no,
doing it.
no,
Okay,
hold
it's
on,
three,
we
it's
can't
three,
do
it's
this.
three.
No.
I'll leave it at 3.
It doesn't matter what I do. I mean, right after watching the movie, I rated it a little bit higher, but after thinking about it, I lowered it. Like, sue me.
Yeah, I will. You'll be
Well,
speaking
I
to
was
my lawyer
debating-
tomorrow.
I was debating between 1.5 and 2. So,
Yeah, we're allowed to change opinions during discussion, because maybe like through our discussion, there's some things that we realized about the movie that we didn't realize
Yeah.
before. So
Yeah, I'm not
But
eating. I'm
after-
just saying.
after you guys said
But
the
I
score,
because I've
then
done
it's
I've
not
done that
really-
a couple times too. So
Yeah.
I even if I had a 3.5 out of 5 originally, your rating still just didn't make sense to me, no matter what. But if you want to keep it a 3, I'm fine with that, because that makes me feel a little bit better. So let's go through our scores one more time, just so Callus gets them all right. I got a 3 here.
I'll stick with the 3.
I'll do the 1.5. I'll go down.
Oh.
It was so bad.
Shot through the heart.
Ooh,
All right, well,
so
let's-
average for this movie is 2.25.
Yeah, let's move on before I start balling up here, tearing up here. Greedy, what movie do you want us to watch for the next episode?
All right, we're gonna do a little bit of a rewatch. I'm sure we all seen this before. Kind of a funny, I guess, kind of funny war movie. Movie I'm gonna recommend is *Inglourious Bastards*, 2009. Written by Quentin Tarantino, and just him directed it as well. Stars Brad Pitt, Diane Kruger, Eli Roth. Synopsis: in a Nazi-occupied France during World War II, a plan to assassinate Nazi leaders by a group of Jewish U.S. soldiers coincides with a theater owner's vengeful plans for the same. I don't know, that synopsis does not seem right for the movie. I don't know.
No, that's
That's
right.
what IMDb has, but I don't
No,
know.
that's
That
right.
ending just seemed a
I
little
usually get mine
weird.
off of Letterboxd. They're usually a little bit more in depth, but that's the basic plot.
Yeah, just that last sentence just seemed.
No, there's a French
Yeah.
woman who
Yeah.
owns a theater, and she also wants to
Plans
kill
for
the
the
Nazis.
same.
so-
Okay, yeah. Plans for okay. That yeah. Now that you said it, it made sense. But yeah, where to watch? Prime, Amazon. I think it's just on Amazon.
Streaming on Prime?
Cast.
Cool.
Said a little bit. Did I? Oh yeah, Brad Pitt, Diane Kruger, Eli Roth, Christopher Waltz, Michael Fassbender, Melanie Laurent, and there's a bunch of other people.
So just
And
for
Martin-
context, because we just did Sergeant Pepper's, and that movie across the board is like, it's almost like every single rating you can give it has like a good amount of ratings, right? It's like very divided. Inglourious Bastards, pretty much 4s and 5s across the board for people.
Yeah. Mhm.
Kind of a
Well, that's-
crazy difference there.
Like I said, like two last episode where I was like, wow, this movie has a lot of bad ratings
Well,
for Sergeant Pepper's. So.
yeah, but if you look on Letterboxd, like the ratings are very plateaued across the board. Like there's no highs or lows in extremes like on this movie. So just thought I'd bring that up just as a little comparison.
Yeah, IMDb, the critics hate it, but some of the user reviews are.
Well, I'm sure the critics despise Sergeant
Yeah.
Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I
Um,
don't.
oh,
I don't,
yeah, it's
I don't
fans
doubt
were a
that.
mixed bag. Yeah.
Yeah, Sergeant
I
Pepper
love-
has like a 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I look at Letterboxd because it's all regular users. There's no critical stuff in there because the critics can be wrong.
Yeah.
Or
Alright, but yeah, alright,
whatever.
new movie,
Well,
Glorious
yeah.
Bastards.
I haven't seen this quite a while.
Yeah, I
It's
haven't
been a-
either.
been a
that's
hot
why.
minute for me too.
Same. I don't think I've seen it since 2009.
I think
Yes, I've never
this was
seen
the.
it. I saw it in theaters twice. First time I was like, "This is really great." I want to, see this again. Second time I went, "Not as good as I remember." So we'll see if
Uh-oh.
that holds up.
Last time I watched
Yeah.
this was when I moved out of my parents originally, so that was
I
quite a while
remember
ago
this being popular when it came out.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
very popular, yeah.
Yeah,
And
like I said, I
remember-
got hated the second time I saw it. I just didn't like.
Well, we'll see. We'll see
Well,
how you
yeah,
feel about it
and
now.
like I said, I saw it in theaters twice. So this was back in 2009 or whatever. And I just remember the second time going, okay, maybe it's not quite as good as I remember. Like it still wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as I remember the first time seeing it.
Okay, well, save that thought for when we review this. So,
Yeah. I'll just say it now because maybe could change. Maybe the third time will be amazing again. We'll see.
All right. Well, if you, the listener, don't want to be spoiled or if you want to join the conversation for Inglourious Bastards from 2009, not the 1978 version, make sure you watch that before the next episode airs in 2 weeks. We'll reconvene and talk about that. Is there anything
about
else?
an original too, but I was like, let's rewatch the 2009 one.
Is there anything else you guys want to say before we end the show?
Be sure to clean your ass.
Make sure you scrub it too.
It's always.
Yeah. Get deep down in there.
All right. Well, I am Sergeant Ferret and the Lonely Hearts Club Band, and I've been here with.
Greedy cheers.
Strawberry Tay.
Blueberry Fields of Callus.
And we are Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone, and don't forget to get back.
Get back. Yeah, make sure you go listen to some Beatles records after this one, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Redeem the Beatles for Tay and Callison.
Yes, please.